To agenda item 6, which is written documentation of meeting minutes. Albert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I submitted a recommended format for the minutes that I've used in the past in various places I've worked that I find very useful. I know that people fall back on the audio. So they say we can have a very glossed over general minutes of the meeting because you can always go to the audio and listen for the specifics. But I kind of reject the use of the audio. I've been doing this for 48 years at different agencies, and never before has anyone said, if you want to know what happened, go to the audio. I don't think the average citizen out there is going to go through the bother of looking up online, finding the audio files, and half the time I try to hear on audio, I get an error message on my computer saying does not support this audio file format. And even if you can get the audio, who's going to listen to an hour or 2 hours of audio to get to a point that you want to hear? You want to hear an issue, you want to hear a question, you want to hear an answer. I don't think anybody is going to spend that kind of time. Versus if you have detailed minutes of the meeting, you can spend, less than 5 minutes scanning through the minutes to get to the point you want and then home in on what you want to read. So I would encourage that the staff follow this format that I'm suggesting so that not only the members will have an accurate record of what happened, but make it easy for the citizens to find things out. And I think it's particularly important that factual errors be changed in the minutes, such as the factual error in the minutes of the previous meeting that has already been approved, so I won't go over it again, but there's a factual error in the minutes. Suzanne Shields' memo that was referenced had nothing to do with 404 permits as stated in the minutes. It had to do with responding to Supervisor Miller's request to her to come up with a cost analysis of bikeways. And if we're going to say in the minutes that 2 + 2 = 5 and not correct it to say 2 + 2 = 4, why do we have the minutes to begin with? Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Can someone from staff give us an indication of, for other meetings, committees of this type, how are the meeting summary or minutes handled?
Just like these.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is how we kind of decided how to do our meeting summary. We looked at the other committee meetings, other departments that have had advisory committees for a long time, and we followed their format.
Madam Chair, getting back to the comment about the viability of the audio tape, I personally don't have any problem with it. I've listened to my cell phone in my car went up for a couple of the meetings that I've
You're not supposed to be using your phone in the car.
What?
You'll get a ticket for that from the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you for keeping me on the trail. But one of the things I think would help to make the audio tape more useful is to have an index to the agenda items by minute on the tape, so you can kind of get away from having to track through a half an hour or to fast forward and stop and so on, and just say at minute 21 and a half begins this discussion on agenda item number 7, for example. I think that would probably help, because there's a lot that the public isn't going to be interested in, obviously, in the tapes. Another thing I do agree with Albert on is having something in the minutes about the public comment. If we could just have, people take a lot of time to come in out of their day to come into these meetings. Our meetings are in the middle of the day. If we could somehow summarize in a sentence or so that so-and-so had an issue with the paving quality on road such and such, I think that would be worthwhile. As far as
in this version.
Yeah, in this version, and just to add that, we have what 20 speakers today, roughly. I'm glad that everybody didn't speak because there would have been a lot of redundancy in that. But I think it's worthwhile, summarizing the comments from today and including that public participation.
What I'm saying, Kurt, is in the one from March 26th, they've got notes about calling the vote.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And to keep that up, to reference the name and what the topic was.
So what I'm hearing we want to do is have an indication on the tape as to when we move from one agenda item to the next one.
Can't do it.
I'm not doing it right now. I have no way to do that. So it might be after the fact, maybe?
I think it would have to be after the fact, right? I mean, I wasn't thinking in real time. Is it possible that?
That's, so I looked at him and said, is that possible? We don't know. We can find out and get back to the committee how that can be done.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all we can do is ask.
So Madam Chair, if we can clarify what the ask is, Kurt, you had made the suggestion, if we identify in the minutes where that item begins on the audio, is that what you were seeking?
Yeah.
Not the other way around,
Right.
not to partition the audio in any way, but that in the minutes we reference the time stamp of where that discussion begins in the audio. So that, I believe, Annabelle, your staff is listening to the audio and preparing the summary meeting minutes, so that should easily be accommodated.
Wonderful. Okay, and then also has the indication, a short summary of the people, as we had in our last minutes, that were took the time to speak in the quarterly. And then we're also going to add the date of any change of agenda items need to be included, and we can. So for our next meeting, that will be May 3rd. Put that on the agenda as well. Albert, did you have did that adequately? Was there any other comments you had about that agenda item that you?
I won't ask for a motion to approve my suggestion because I know it won't pass. But I would ask that the county staff give some consideration when they're doing the minutes to put in important items and to be sure you're factually correct when you're referencing memos. And if I can get a commitment that you'll make an effort to do that, I would really appreciate it. And I like Curtis's idea about indexing the audio, indexing the written minutes to the audio. I think would be a very helpful thing. So.
Okay, I think that the level of detail in the minutes will be consistent with the other committee meetings throughout Pima County. So I want to make sure we're not agreeing to something that we're not going to be able to carry through as far as that. But certainly accommodating the items that we just discussed, we can do that.
And one last item, if a member specifically asks for a statement or a comment to be specifically documented in the minutes, I would appreciate it if staff would do that.
And again, for the same reason that we already stated, we can't take specific requests from individual committee members with regard to the minutes because it's a high-level summary, as was indicated previously. But that detail would be available unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, that detail would be available obviously in the audio portion.
Well, perhaps we can change some of our approach to this rather than saying this is the way it was decided 2 years ago and we can't do anything different.
I think the way
I think we have to be able to move our cheese once in a while.
I agree, but your perspective may be different from somebody else's perspective. And so the way that we do the minutes now, it's up for discussion actually. My personal view is that the way we do the minutes now at a high-level summary is the appropriate way to do it without taking individual requests from committee members to highlight certain issues that are important to the respective individual. But it's certainly open for discussion. What are your thoughts?
Madam Chair, I brought up the same issue that Albert is bringing up now when we first started. I think it was this committee. And the minutes, the format has evolved, and I find them much more useful than they were when we first started this. And I know somebody went back and talked to the county attorney's office, looked at the state statutes on the requirements for these minutes, and so on. And I think all these are all compliant and are consistent with the others. But I do agree with Albert that if there's something that's really an important comment and it is missing from the minutes, that it probably should be reflected.
The only problem I have with that is what is really important to you may not be
Yeah,
really
well, I
important to
agree.
somebody else.
Yeah,
So it's impossible to define,
Right.
so I kind of want to stay away from
Yeah,
that.
well, I agree, and that's why we voted on something earlier on it. So, I mean, if there's concurrence on something to adjust the minutes, obviously, they're going to be adjusted.
Absolutely, and there is the opportunity to do that at the
Mhm.
beginning of each meeting, where if there's something that the committee agrees that is important or significant, there can be a motion that can be seconded and approved by the committee at that time. Absolutely.
And in some cases, I've sent in some suggestions ahead of time and they were modified. So that's a lot of cooperation on staff.
Yes, I agree. They do a great job.
Well, Madam Chair, I don't think we have to define what comments should be included. If a member asks for it to be included, that should suffice.
I disagree. That just because.
Okay, I respectfully disagree with you too, Madam Chair.
All right. So.
Can you put that in the minutes for today's meeting?